We're up to 38 folks. It is February 3rd, one day before the birthday of my twins, and it's great to have everybody with us. And we are marching toward Armageddon here. We got a ton to talk about today. We're going to start with an open hour on Trump and let everybody vent and talk about what's really important, what's going on in our country. We also want to get a report or lack thereof from Tatanka Bricca on what's going on with Leonard Peltier. We'll start with that. We usually have a poem from Amy Gurman. She couldn't make it today, so I'm going to turn over here. I want to read what ALICIA KEYS said last night at the Grammys. She's quite a performer. I think she won a Grammy or two. I'm not sure, but here we go. This is not the time to shut down the diversity of voices. We've seen on this stage, she's talking about the Grammys, talented, hardworking people from different backgrounds with different points of view, and it changes the game. DEI is not a threat, it's a gift. The more voices, the more powerful the sound. When destructive forces try to burn us down, we rise from the ashes like a phoenix. And as you see tonight, music is the unstoppable language that connects us all. It's all so beautiful. Thank you, ALICIA KEYS. I hope you guys heard that. I had to go back and forth, but this DEI stuff is ridiculous to me. It's just and whenever I hear those words spoken with anger, it's just a sign that a bunch of white guys are terrified of strong women, especially people of color. It's a sign of terror. And the idea, by the way, that that plane crash in Washington was in any way, shape, or form connected to DEI is beyond insane. And not only that, it's time to really point out Donald Trump is probably the most culpable of all people for that plane crash in Washington. We've gone 25 years without a plane crash of that magnitude in this country, including 4 years straight of none with Joe Biden, nothing to do with DEI. The fact is that Trump, it's taken him, 2 weeks to completely assault our airline system. It does date back to Ronald Reagan when he fired the air traffic controllers, which was ridiculous. And I did actually, there was a wonderful activist in Columbus, Ohio, who flew into LAX and was killed in a plane crash clearly caused by the lack of air traffic controllers, which Reagan started. And now Trump is again attacking the air traffic control system and the military air system. And there's a lot of analyses out there pointing out that Trump very quickly did a ton of stuff to really cut the bottom out of our air traffic control system, including, I just read today, about a few minutes ago, that there is a very critical airport in San Carlos, California, just outside the Bay Area. And they have a real hand in controlling and making safe the airplanes going in and out of the Bay Area. And every air traffic controller in the San Carlos, California airport has quit. Think about that. There are 0 air traffic controllers at the San Carlos, California airport. There's a severe shortage nationwide under Trump's regime here of air traffic controllers. And God forbid what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months with our air system. But it took Trump less than 2 weeks to be at the helm of the worst air crash in the United States in 25 years. And he blames it on DEI because he has common sense. So we're going to have a full hour here to vent on Trump. Next week, we will have Greg Palast with us. Greg just checked in with me. He is going to come next week and outline exactly why Trump is in the White House, which is because the Democratic Party did not protect the right to vote. More than 10 million people were disenfranchised in this election deliberately. And the majority, of course, were people of color, more than enough to have carried in Kamala Harris. And the Democrats did nothing and are still saying nothing. This was happened in 2000. It happened in 2004. It happened in 2016. It happened again in 2024. And here we are with no discussion of protecting the right to vote in this country, which is how Trump took the White House. So we will have Greg Palast with us next week to talk about that, as no one else can. Lynn Feinerman, jump on in, please. Lynn, are you unmuted?
Yes.
Go.
Thank you. I really would like to hear what's happening personally to others. So far for me, any calls that I've tried to make into senators, representatives, anywhere in Washington, D.C. don't get through. There is total dysfunction there. And it automatically tells you that the mailboxes are full, but you can hardly hear it. My fiscal sponsorship, which is a wonderful group that produces Project Censored, has completely shut down its fiscal sponsorship program as a result of the suppressive rules, regulations, and basic surveillance and just going after people in the nonprofit sector. They feel that the nonprofit sector is going to be under deep attack. So now I am without a fiscal sponsor. Today, my automatic payment that I get at the first of every month did not arrive, and I had to like go through all kinds of crap trying to get it reinstated. And I don't know even yet if it has been reinstated. There's been a lot of dysfunction with regard to the banking system that we have to work with because I'm trying to sell my mom's estate. My mom died,
Okay.
I think a lot of people know. So I'm wondering, whether other people are encountering all these obstacles or any.
Henny, let me get to you in a second because I know Steve Caruso is right on this, and then we'll go to HEDY TRIPP. Steve, you tried to call Social Security today. What happened?
Well, it wasn't that I called. I tried to log in and it says access forbidden, whether that's caused by the traffic that's there. There was some lady on Hartman today saying that she tried to pay her taxes with her facial recognition ID and that didn't go through, unrecognized. When I got on Social Security, it said forbidden access. And I tried several times. Earlier, I got on just fine. Also, I wanted to bring up there's a thing called ResistBot that's on Facebook Messenger. Somebody's got audio in the background. I don't know who that is, but and I'll put it in the chat. And you can go on Facebook Messenger and try. It worked earlier today, but we'll see what happens. There's
Okay.
massive protests on Wednesday going on too. So if people are keyed into that, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you for that. We're joined by Kenny Bruno. Hi, Kenny. Great to have you with us. We really appreciate your presence. If you want to speak, let me know. HEDY TRIPP in frigid St. Cloud, Minnesota. What's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, when he talked about DEI being the cause of the those
Air
horrible
crash.
aircraft crash, it took me a while to try and put my head around it. Could it be insinuating, I guess, that that those that administer the aircraft industry are people of color and that they should be eliminated, basically? Or is he going to use DEI for everything that goes wrong?
The answer to that is yes. I mean,
Yeah.
of course he is. And it recalls that statement that the guy with Nixon made 40, 50 years ago about, you can't say the N-word, you can't attack women, but you can use code. And back then they used forced busing, all that stuff. Now it's DEI. And, their absolute terror of transgender people, of gay people, anything that threatens male domination. I mean, that's what we're looking at, and that's going to be Trump's go-to for as long as it's effective. I don't know how long really it's going to be effective, and people are going to get tired of this. Well, notice that one of the first things he did was try to define male and female, as if he could do that. We'll see. But the DEI blaming, and I don't think it did well for him, blaming that horrible crash on DEI. Nobody bought that. I mean, really, I saw a chart of the male female division of air traffic controllers. It's almost all men, and it's been almost all men for a long time. And he's talked about people who were missing limbs, and there's like a 0.001% of the traffic controllers are missing an arm or a leg, and that didn't fly. There's no absolutely zero statistical evidence the DEI had anything to do with that crash. But he'll go to it for a while, but I don't think how it's going to last all that long. We'll see. But thank you for that, Eddie.
I've been talking a lot to DEI directors and officers. There was a conference that brought them together, and they are just, it causes great anxiety,
Yeah.
amongst them. So,
Well, the
yeah.
basic implication is no women and no people of color are competent to do anything. That's what
Right.
he's saying, basically. And there's a certain part of the population that will buy that, but they're always there, and they've always been there. My presumption is that the Republican Party under Donald Trump would like to reverse the 19th Amendment so that women can't vote, and forget about all the civil rights amendments, and even I actually have seen I have seen online some defenses of slavery. So I guess we'll go there eventually. MYLA RESON, MYLA, you want to jump in?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to report. I got home late yesterday evening and looked at YouTube, and there were massive demonstrations against the the ICE roundups in Los Angeles downtown. And I talked to someone who was there, and what I learned was that there was a demonstration that was planned, and they never expected the thousands of people who joined the demonstration. It was very spontaneous. There were thousands of people in downtown Los Angeles for hours. They got onto the freeway for a while and blocked one of the major freeways, the 101 freeway, and they were protesting Trump's horrific threats to deport immigrants here in this country. So I just wanted to report on that. Very spontaneous demonstrations involving thousands of people.
Well, for those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, there's nothing that strikes terror in the heart of Angelenos more than hearing a freeway is being blocked. I mean, the 101, which I ride on for whenever I drive anywhere in LA, has what, 12 lanes? So anyway, well, there you go. This is the new reality. A lot of the press I was seeing today was demanding to know why the Democrats are rolling over. I don't know myself. The questioning of the Trump appointees was not all that powerful, but I do want to raise something here. We have 69 people with us. There's a guy who's now becoming a major pivot point in American politics. He's the deputy chief of the FBI. And the FBI director just turned tail and walked out the door as soon as Trump said anything. This guy's name is second in command, who's now first in command. His name is Brian Driscoll. And he is basically saying that he is not going to fire people. Trump appears to want to fire a major portion of the FBI. And to turn it in, well, the question is, are they going to merge the FBI with the KGB? Trump essentially wants to turn the FBI into his private investigative operation here. And this guy, this is NBC News, Brian Driscoll, here he is with the facial hair. He's refusing to fire the agents, claiming it's unlawful. Now, I know this is hard for the Republican administration to understand, but in the United States, especially with federal employees, you just can't fire people. They are not at-will employees. There are laws that require that there be a presentation of just cause for firing people in the federal government, as in union jobs. Well, a lot of them are union. I mean, if you have a job and you're union and your boss wants to fire you, there has to be cause given. There has to be a process. And Trump apparently believes that he has the ability or the power or the right, pick one, to just de facto fire people, whoever he wants to get rid of. And this guy, Brian Driscoll, who I think we're going to see a lot of in the media, I mean, he's now basically running the FBI. And this guy, Kash Patel, who wants to be put in power, has not been approved yet by the Congress. Well, if he will be, I don't know. That's going to be a close call. It'll be a very interesting vote on that. But this guy, Brian Driscoll, said he is not going to stand for a mass firing of FBI agents. It's going to be very interesting to watch that and see if he holds his ground and if the FBI agents hold their ground, because they do have rights, as do all the thousands and thousands of federal employees that Trump wants to fire. And we also have resistance from the National Labor Relations Board. Two employees, Jennifer Abruzzo and Gwynn Wilcox, have said that they will just not walk out the door. They're going to go to court and resist their being fired. So this is going to be a very interesting process to watch. I will have to say that many people are quite surprised by how Trump has hit the ground running, but he does not seem to believe there's an opposing team. So let's see what happens. Steve Caruso and then Barbara Wright.
Yeah, so is Doge a cabinet position? And obviously, Elon Musk hasn't been approved by Congress to take over that position, even though Elon Musk has his henchmen running around pulling plugs and grabbing servers and taking all our data and everything else. So this whole thing is totally illegal according to the Constitution. I don't know, what the reference is for the attainment of power by this guy. He's got none, right?
Well, he has $400 billion. That's a fair amount of power. He's got more money than a lot of countries. And we now live in a system where it's $1, one vote. So that's his power. And he, well, we will be following Elon Musk. His poll numbers are under the water, by the way. Elon Musk is not a popular guy. And I will also say, by the way, that Trump's poll numbers, historically, when presidents take power, they have a very wide margin of approval. I mean, Eisenhower's approval, and George Bush the first, when they took office, their approval versus disapproval was more than 80%. Trump's is 7%. It is way, way, way lower than any other president since World War II, including him. He did better in 2017 than he's doing in 2025. So, this is going to be very interesting to play out. Will public opinion matter in this country? He's now put in tariffs, which everybody knows, as a historian, the history of tariffs is very, very negative. They always raise prices. They always harm commerce, international commerce. They were good for the country in the first 25 years because the tariffs in early revolutionary post-colonial America protected our industries. But since then, tariffs have been a disaster. And, I now realize I went to the grocery store last night and couldn't buy maple syrup. Now I know why. The tariffs against Canada have not been popular. And by the way, this is unprecedented. This has not happened before. at the Toronto Raptors NBA game, basketball game, where they play both national anthems when there's because all the other teams are American. The crowd in the arena for the basketball game booed the American national anthem. I mean, the only I guess they would have tolerated it if it was played by Jimi Hendrix, but that's a different story. Barbara Wright, then Mike Hersh, then Ruth Strauss. Barbara?
Yes. Yesterday I was on a podcast and they were talking about the FAA.
Yeah.
70%, and this news, I can't remember the last of it, but anyway, this gentleman said they had done their research. 70% of the FAA are white, 78% of the FFA are men. So
Yes.
for Trump to say what he did is outrageous. We
Yes.
have got to get our elected leaders to come up with a strategy of getting rid of this man before he kills us all. And that's all I've
Well,
got to say.
he could be impeached and removed. Impeachment is not removal. This Congress will never impeach him. Most likely, I'm betting on the 25th Amendment. We'll see how long he goes, but you got to be careful what you say. By the way, you cannot threaten the life of the president. It's one thing very explicitly excluded from the First Amendment. So people never say that. We'll see, but I got to say, it's been an interesting right from the time he started the transition. It's been a really amazing piece of work here. This Trump transition. My feeling is that he's way overstretched. He has no mandate. I mean, one allegedly by less than 3 million votes. And next week we'll hear from Greg Palast how that's not true. But we'll continue. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Mike Hersh, Ruth, and then Julie. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody in the chat for all your passion and your righteous anger. And I just would like to urge everybody to refrain from pointing your righteous anger in the wrong direction. I've seen a lot of people who are attacking Democrats, claiming Democrats aren't doing anything. Well, a lot of Democrats maybe aren't, but the Democratic senator from Hawaii, Senator Schatz, has threatened to shut all the hearings down until Trump walks back his unconstitutional efforts to shut down entire agencies and his unconstitutional efforts to hold back on money that the Congress has already appropriated. These are violations of the law, and Trump is already writing a very good case for impeaching him if the Democrats can get control of the House in a couple of years. In addition, I'm going to drop an article about how congressional Democrats went to the USAID, which Musk claimed was criminal. Well, he would know, wouldn't he? But the USAID keeps people alive all around the world and helps uphold human rights. And Democratic Senator Chris Murphy said this was a constitutional crisis. And Jamie Raskin, who's my own member of Congress, I don't own him, but he represents me in the House. He said, we don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk. So Democrats are doing a whole lot of things. And there are people who are asking, how are the Democrats going to get the House with this extreme corruption? Well, basically, we have to win by more than they can steal it, which, again, that's a high burden. But the way Trump and Musk and his henchmen and henchwomen are attacking people, they're going to piss off a whole lot of people, including deporting the spouses of some of their voters. They've been doing that. And Sandy has said, I think it's understood that the ire is directed toward corporate Dems, not progressive Dems. Here's my point. Anybody who opposes Trump is more or less an ally of circumstances with us. And we should train our outrage on Trump and Musk and the people who are actually doing things rather than attacking people who we feel aren't doing things to enough to stop that. We have to stop it. We have to encourage other people to stop it. But wringing our hands and moaning and making accusations, especially ones that are vague, overbroad, and inaccurate, only helps Trump. So think before you speak. You know, say and do whatever you want, but just consider, what are you trying to accomplish? And being outraged, that's, you know, that just means you're paying attention. But that doesn't mean that we have to have the usual circular firing squad and open fire on each other. That's not going to get it done for us.
All right, Mike. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. And Ruth Strauss, you wanted to jump in, Ruth, and then Julie Weiner.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to Harvey, Steve, and Mike for lighting a fire under us for the historical perspective about Ike versus Trump now, although, you know, I don't know where, I'm not challenging where you got the 7% considering all the MAGA people around. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, you know, I really don't believe the man understands tariffs, and I'm sure everybody on this call agrees. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to you all, but Lawrence O'Donnell did a stunning job of not only talking about how, you know, Trump doesn't understand tariffs, but then the fact it happened when Trump was asked a question about childcare. And he went on this, you know, whole long thing, and then he goes, and besides which, we're going to put tariffs on China, and that'll pay for the child care. And so that wasn't bad enough. But
Right.
what I love about Lawrence is he found in the New York Times a paragraph where the New York Times was trying to explain what Trump was saying. And so he called the New York Times a sane washer, meaning they were trying to make what you know Trump said to sound sane, which it wasn't. The other thing is, what is amazing to me is he said the same damn thing at Davos. And apparently, instead of Davos thinking he's a jackass, apparently he got some, you know, applause there. So anyway, thank you for all you guys do. And thank you for, you know, lighting a fire under me instead of me sitting here, you know, absorbing how many terrible things are going on. Thanks.
You're welcome, Ruth. Thank you. Julie in New York. Julie, go ahead.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I'm not a great fan of USAID. Somebody just posted some of their complicity in CIA coups that have overthrown democratic regimes around the world. And of course, the FBI, we all know the history of the FBI, but we do want them to stand up against Trump. And there is a constitutional crisis, as some of our congressional representatives are pointing out, because Trump is taking over or Musk is suddenly cutting funds that Congress has authorized. I do hope, though, that Trump keeps bullying Netanyahu. And I hope he gives up his idea of depopulating Gaza. But I hope he keeps bullying Netanyahu into the ceasefire. And I would like to see Congress, put sanctions back on the West Bank settlers.
Boy, that's
at least he bullied Netanyahu into giving the Palestinians in Gaza 5 minutes to breathe. I'd like to see it last longer than 5 minutes, though.
Right.
And I don't know whether we can count on Trump with his greed for Saudi money and Saudi oil to keep the pressure up. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Saudis or any other potentates in the Middle East to actually keep defending the Palestinians, but they're under threat from, you know, they're always under threat of being overthrown if they're bad enough.
Right. Thanks, Julie. And I gotta say, you know, the real problem in the Republicans' eyes, especially Elon Musk, with the Constitution, is that there is one. I mean, you know, if you read the stuff coming out of the American right wing now, a lot of it is very blatantly autocratic and monarchistic. And I'm not sure that Trump really has full cognizance that there are limitations from the U.S. Constitution. I think that many around him considered it to be, well, there was a term that was used under Bush by a guy, quaint. The Constitution is sort of a quaint artifact in some museum somewhere. Don McCann, go ahead, Don.
Yes, I just wanted to emphasize what Mike Hersh said about USAID. This is catastrophic, and it is a national emergency that we do something about this. I dropped in the chat a couple of references, some we wrote from Health Justice Monitor, but also the New York
Wait, Don,
Times.
tell us, what is Health Justice Monitor?
It's Health Justice Monitor is um, a series of articles that we select important topics from the literature, from the journals, and Jim Kahn, who was a health policy professor at UCSF, and I write a comment on these to explain where we are, where we should be going. And
Go ahead then. Sorry.
right. The problem is that the organization does USAI, anyway, does a lot of humanitarian services, which are relatively inexpensive, but they save literally millions of lives. And Trump and Musk want to shut this down. In fact, just this afternoon, Musk released a report that says that they are shutting it down as of today. And I think that we as a nation ought to stand up and insist on a reversal of this. And actually, we also think we need to insist on replacing our national leadership, which is much more difficult, of course. But
Well, that's quite amazing, USA. There's so many other agencies now that are really threatened. What's going to happen with Medicaid and Medicare? I mean, that is, and Social Security, of course. These are huge issues.
and then the World Health Organization, we've already withdrawn from the World Health Organization in just this short time that Trump has been back in office. We have to do something. And anyway, in the Health Justice Monitor, we do make some suggestions, emphasize the really crucial problems that have occurred because of their attack on this organization. But we really have to do something about it. We can't tolerate this.
Well, the question then becomes what? We are a nonpartisan call. We have attacked the Democrats here, and we're wondering, Mike has pointed out, we don't need a circular firing squad, but we do applaud, some criticisms of the Democrats, and we don't know how do you go about this is unprecedented. How do you go about reestablishing the funding for a government bureaucracy or a government agency that's just been defunded by someone who's completely unelected, not been before a congressional committee, and yet the work is done? Where do you, Don, pull out the political wherewithal or the structural, the legal wherewithal to restore the funding to this agency? Do you have any idea?
Well, these are maybe sort of a pipe dream, but I did make some suggestions that appear in Health Justice Monitor. I said, whatever resources we have, nonviolent, massive demonstrations, demand to the president and his partners in crime to resign immediately. In lieu of their failure to provide the resignations, then a demand on Congress to initiate a rapid impeachment process, a rejection of the Supreme Court's ridiculous position that the president cannot be held accountable for crimes he commits, since he must be imprisoned if he continues in his dastardly ways, to prevent implementation of further crimes against humanity. Plus, you people should add other effective nonviolent actions to this list. But we got to do something, and we got to do it now. The world, the nation, democracy is crumbling around us with the rapidity of the horrendous attacks that are taking place. Anyway,
Well, you know, as my mother used to say, from your lips to God's ears, that I think that the whole much of the nation is struggling with how to deal with this. We have had we have had dictatorial presidents in the past. John Adams was a horrendous betrayer of the First Amendment. He put people in jail for newspapermen and women, actually just men at the time, for merely criticizing him. John Adams imprisoned under the Sedition Act, by the way, which Trump referred to from 1798. John Adams put Ben Franklin's grandson in prison for merely, attacking him in print. Woodrow Wilson was much worse, by the way. Woodrow Wilson was an absolute dictator, and he imprisoned tens of thousands of people throughout the United States, even just for criticizing him in private conversations. So Trump has a way to go yet to match Woodrow Wilson. Let's hope to God he never gets there. And Wilson also used the Sedition Act. So we can expect to see the Sedition Act pulled out of the closet against people like you and me and everybody else who dares to criticize. That's going to happen. And I think everybody knows it. So the question is, at this point in time, what levers of power do we have to slow down this dictatorship? I do want to point out, by the way, one very important piece of legislation has been introduced in Mississippi. I don't know how many of you have heard this, but a state legislator in Mississippi has proposed a legal ban against male masturbation.
I saw that. Yeah.
This you couldn't make up. Yeah. I think, by the way, it's just part of a plot to bankrupt Pornhub. But, what can I tell you? I mean,
it'll also put fertility clinics out of business.
Yes. No, that's wrong. Mike, because there's a specific exemption in the ban against masturbation if it's used for fertility.
Well, then there'll be a rush for people to start their own amateur fertility clinics.
Well, there'll be a big run on paper cups, that's for sure.
There you go. Invest in Dixie.
Yes, Dixie cups, and whoever is going to take the frequency for Pornhub. Julie Weiner, go ahead, please, Julie. Are you muted? Yes, you are. And Ray Lutz, I know you're with us somewhere. If you want to pipe up with your latest findings. In the second hour, by the way, MYLA RESON is going to lead a discussion on starting having an ecological Earth Day broadcast and the following up on a eco broadcast network. So that's going to start in about 20 minutes. Julie, go ahead. I can't get.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Ray can say more about what's going on in Congress with this. But Lulu has recruited a number of the Stop the Steal proponents of hand-marked paper ballots to smart elections, and has been apparently working with the Republicans trying to write into law a requirement that we have hand-marked paper ballots. Now, I don't trust anything the Republicans are going to do about our elections, but it would be nice if we could
Well, here's Ray
require
now. We'll get to him in a
ballots
minute.
nationally. But anyway, Ray knows more about what's going on, I'm sure.
Yeah, we want to cover
secondhand
this.
from Lulu. Yeah.
And Lulu.
And Sluggo, real quick, Julie, if you could weigh in again on what you were saying in terms of who has authority to apply tariffs under the Constitution.
Oh, I just pulled, when you asked about it, so I just pulled up, I just quick did a Google search. And Article 1 of the Constitution gives only Congress the right to tax and set tariffs and to establish foreign policy, by the way. But Congress has gradually, completely handed the president and the State Department the power over foreign policy and even the power to wage war, which is also supposed to be Congress's alone, according to the Constitution. So I just looked it up. It's in Article 1 of the Constitution, the power to raise tariffs. They don't use the word tariffs, but taxes.
Well, that's how the government used to raise its money, until the Internal Revenue Act and the 16th Amendment installing the income tax. All the government revenue came from the customs house, and and taxation on international trade, and so that, yes, it all came from the Congress. There's no doubt. It's going to be very interesting. Nothing wreaks havoc on a modern economy more than tariffs. I mean, and by the way, a lot of this applies to electric vehicles, which is a very big deal. Alfred McCoy, who's a great journalist, a professor at Wisconsin, had a piece that was in Tom Dispatch and then Counterpunch about the impact of electric vehicles and the fact that the United States is completely, our auto industry has completely gone to sleep on EVs. And we do have the Tesla, but China, Teslas are 30, 40 grand. I mean, that electric car, which has no bumpers, by the way. But the Chinese have a car, the BYD, bring your dog, which is a very solid electric sedan selling for under 20 grand. And, Biden put tariffs on it. If the BYD came into the United States, it would be the end of the American auto industry. So here in the country, but we no longer have electric cars that compete in Europe, Asia, Africa, or South America. I mean, our car industry is basically gonna wither now. And here's Trump ranting at electric cars as if the United States is the world. We're 330 million people. There are 8 billion on this planet. And no American cars are going to be selling overseas going forward. We've just lost the world market. So if he wants to put 100% tariffs on bringing the BYD into the United States, lots of luck. We won't have any in the United States, but worldwide, forget it. We're done. We're cooked. NICOLE UNG, Mickey Leader, and then we'll go to Ray Lutz.
Hi, yes. I wanted to bring up two things that are very, very concerning while we're worrying about, Trump, trying to use DEI, about the helicopter crash. While he's having our attention turned toward the helicopter crash, the Congress is trying to pass the SAFE Act that require all Americans to have a document, a passport, a birth certificate, when they register to vote or when they re-register or when they move. And in Florida, our governor did that already this election time, and it affects, the elderly and the people who are not who are the minorities who
Right.
have a hard time, getting their passport and things like that. And then the other one is that we really, really need to call our congressmen, because they can do something. Is Musk, taking over our payment system in our national treasury? He gets he and his team of 6 young people, he gets to have access to all our social security and everything. And then now his Starlink, is linked with iPhone, so he can eavesdrop on anybody's phone that he wants. And then on top of that, his ex Twitter is linking with Visa, so he can get our bank information. So he has us all surrounded, and he has no authority to take over our payment system, from the Treasury Department. That's an illegal coup. And
Wow.
we need to act on that.
It is mind-boggling that,
Yeah.
well,
This
we're all
is-
gonna,
This
we're
we
all
need
gonna
to
be
do
on,
that real quick.
we're all gonna be on PayPal, ASAP. That's what's gonna happen, but mind-boggling. Thank you for that, Nicole. Mickey, and then we'll go to Ray Lutz. Go ahead, Mickey, and then Ray Lutz.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You?
I am unfortunately becoming addicted to getting all the news and reading all the Substacks and all the other things. And in one of them, and I can't tell you where, I saw that Trump has said that he's going to halt Congress and he's going to push his people through during the recess. Now, I don't know if that's an old comment or if it's brand new. The other thing I have to say to you is, excuse my potty mouth, where the hell are all the Democrats? Where are our lawyers making all kinds of, suits about everything that he's doing that's illegal? And he wasn't supposed to fire anybody in the government, and it has to be for cause. I guess they don't care.
No, I think people. I don't know if you were on earlier, but the acting head of the FBI has said that he's going to fight a couple of the members of the NLRB. I don't think the federal employees are going to just walk passively out the door. I think a lot of them are not going to take the buyouts. But we are bipartisan or nonpartisan, and attacking the Democrats is perfectly viable. I don't know if you heard what Mike Hersh said earlier, but hey, we're going to find out. I mean, it's only, what is this, week 2, week 3? So it's going at a pretty fast pace. Thank you, Mickey. Ray Lutz, you're one of our resident experts. Next week, by the way, we're going to have Greg Palast talking about the massive disenfranchisement that defined this election. Ray Lutz, you have done a lot of the work on the computer aspects of this past election and what we need going forward. What do you want to say to us?
Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Harvey, and everybody here. I don't know if I can share this, but I did try to.
Yes, it's up there.
Yeah, cool. So
It looks like
essentially,
it looks like a heart attack.
yeah, okay. So this is a new way to analyze the data that I think is pretty successful at helping us understand things. And this is from Clark County, Nevada. Basically, along the bottom are the precincts. To the left are the ones that are heavily democratically dominated, and to the right are the ones that are heavily Republican dominated. So it's left and right. And so every precinct gets characterized by its registration. So how people are registered. And then we can see, well, how did the vote turn out based on the characterization of that precinct? And if you notice in this plot, the red Republican votes are along a line, which is kind of like what you expect, because as you become more Republican to the right, you get more votes, and to the left, you have fewer votes. And that's a really strong adherence to to that linear form there. But when you look at the Democratic votes, you can see that they have a discontinuity where where in the Republican precincts, they're kind of looking okay in terms of being on this line, and then they break and they become flat. And if you dotted this line here, which I did, like this would be where you'd sort of expect them to be. And the number of votes in Clark County is about 100,000 that are missing. And which is, they have a bit over 1 million votes there. So 100,000 is about 10% of the Democratic votes that look like they're missing. Now, we're trying to think of like, how could they be missing and where could they be missing from, et cetera. And of course, not of course, but it's interesting that in Nevada, they still use these really bad machines, which are used to be direct recording electronic DRE type machines, like, touch screens, where you punch in what you want, and they had no paper at all. So you couldn't prove anything. And then they added a paper trail. We don't know if they're really looking at that. And that's one thing we're trying to investigate. So that's one angle. And the other one is, I think it may be even more likely that they pulled these out of the mail, and Democratic voters' ballots were never received. That would account for not this line not being where it should be, around 100,000 votes. And so that's kind of the direction we want to look into, probably by actually probably sending like postcards to voters that looked like, recently did vote and suddenly stopped voting in this election. It's quite a kind of an interesting other plot that we have, which is, I can show it here really quick, just a second. How do I get posts? And then to this one, view post. Okay. And this is on Substack, but this relates to the the active voters that actually voted each year. And I guess there's I had an active one, but anyway, we'll just look at this one. So you can see this vertical bar each season from 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, and 2024 gets longer because Las Vegas and Clark County is growing. But what's interesting to me here is how many people are added and dropped. And I know Greg Pellis has a lot to say about the dropping. But a bar about this length is around 200,000 voters. So you can see 200,000, more than like 250,000. These are a lot of voters that are dropping. And it's almost as many as continue that are dropped. I just didn't know it was it was that much. Maybe in some areas like Las Vegas might have a lot of turnover. But they are growing really fast. And the question is, like, is this blue line down here of the dropped Democrats, that does look pretty big. Like, that could be what we're talking about here compared to the prior ones looked all about the same. And suddenly this year we had like more that were dropped and more green, which could have been the dropped nonpartisans that would have been voting for in the Democratic Party direction. But there's a lot added here too. So, it's just a lot of thrashing. And I noticed that not too many, you can see these gray lines, not too many skip an election and then restart voting again. But the idea would be to send these people who we expected to vote in this blue line and maybe the green line here, because they and see, did any of these people, did they just, they sent in their ballot? They don't know if it was actually received and tallied. They assume it is. But DeJoy was around. You know, you have a lot of people that were temps in the Postal Service. They had a lot of trouble with stolen merchandise nationally, and those ballots could have just never made it there, and that could explain 100,000 vote deficit. We had also the issue with I guess going back to this one and the Post here, which is what's the partisan drop off, which you've heard probably about a little bit about the drop off. The thing is that if you compare the president to the next contest, which would be like the Senate, in 2016, you see the difference between the votes for Clinton and the votes for, Trump were about equal between the amount of Democrats who voted for president and voted for Senate and the Republicans that voted for president, for Trump for president and voted for the Republican senator candidate. Notice that they're almost exactly the same. And usually the Republicans, in fact, are a little bit more likely to vote down, like they vote for the president and they vote for Republican Senate, a little bit more likely than, not much though, it's almost nothing. But in this contest, you had a massive difference in this drop off. Now it was increasing, and you would think maybe it would be about here, at 75,000, and then the Democrats would be at about the same place. But this time, the Democrats did not keep up. So this chunk right here could be the lost ballots. So anyway, long story short, we're concerned about this election. A lot of people are, because we had people that were, they had the wherewithal, they had money, they had, technical prowess at their disposal, and they were desperate to get back in. And, do we have a means to take them out with this? Let's not even discuss that. What I'm trying to do is find out what the reality is. And I'm not, making any big claims yet, but I think we need to really look into this.
Okay, we will. Thank you, Ray Lutz. It's, there's an assertion going around that the Democrats were shorted in all the swing states, Nevada being one, Clark County, of course, is Las Vegas, and that a very substantial number of actual Democratic votes disappeared, and a very large disenfranchisement occurred among the Democratic constituency, more than enough to make up the less than 3 million vote official differential between Trump and Harris.
Yeah, so this data here does support that. And, I know we're going to hear from Greg Palast. He also supports this concept that this was done. And so anyway, I'll put in the link my Substack. You guys can read the articles there. And I've got more coming pretty soon. Okay,
and join us next week if you can round up, Lulu or Steve Spoonermore will all get together, but Greg will Greg is the primary advocate of the understanding that there was a massive disenfranchisement. He was certainly right about 2000, and he was certainly right about Ohio in 2004. We never got to the bottom of it in 2016. And we need to get to the bottom of it now in 24. Dr. Nancy, and then we're going to go to MYLA and start our hour on the Ecological Broadcasting Network. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yes, question for Ray Lutz. Thank you for that presentation. And I know you're right, and I'm a big fan of Greg Palast. But my hometown is southeastern Michigan, that was always incredibly Democratic, and I was dismayed that Michigan went to Trump. My question, I don't know how many people have actually spoken with young adults who were very progressive kinds of people before the election,
who were absolutely clear they were not going to vote. And I know my hometown of Dearborn was all Middle Easterns, and they were going to stay home from the polls. And I really believe that there was a real loss of Democratic votes because the educated young adults boycotted the polls. And
Do we think?
am I way off?
Well, I will say this election was super close. Okay. Despite all of the thing about them saying it was landslide victory. And here's what really bugs me. This really bugs me. If you take the total number of votes for Kamala Harris and Trump, and you find out how much did Trump win the national vote by, it is 1.500% to within 700 votes. They got exactly 1.5% of the above what Kamala had got. No one got a majority, but they got more than Kamala got. So they could say, well, we won more of a share between Kamala and Trump. The share was that Trump got a larger share by exactly 1.5%, 0.00. So that bugs me when when something is that close and that accurate. It's almost like they said, okay, I'll pay you, $5 million and you get me to win the national vote by 1.5%. And they go, okay, well, it's exactly 1.5%, so pay up. Something like that could have happened. And so that bugs me. So even though you can explain it by many things, you can say, oh, it's because of this and that. She didn't do an interview with Joe Rogan or something. She tried. I just read the article. She tried there, and she was kicked off. Trump made sure she didn't get on. But there's ways you can explain it because it's so close. But I'm just going after the numbers. I'm going after the evidence, and I'm going to do that even though probably legally there's no way to kick Trump out with the data that I get, because we just follow the numbers no matter what. So legally, they've done this before. They say, well, it's after certification, you can't do anything. So why are you doing it? So legally he's in office, and so he's the president no matter what you do. But that's not following the evidence, okay? And so that's the difference between the legal realm and the scientific realm. Scientific realm goes for whatever's real, and it doesn't matter what the law says, right? But the law says, oh, it's the courts have already decided that, so we're going to go with that no matter what the science says.
Well, we're going to do the deep dive next week, Ray. We want you to come back, if you will.
Okay.
And Greg will be with us.
If I can make it, I'll come. I'm going to be, I don't know. Well, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Wait, don't go yet, Ray. Don't go yet. I have one quick question
I
for
got
you.
the MYLA RESON is waiting to start our.
Okay.
Why don't you go
I'll wait.
set up, but go ahead, Julie, go ahead, and then we'll
Yes,
go.
just one quick question. Was that 1.500% separately in different swing states, or was that the total nationally? Because if there were two swing states that coincidentally he won by 1.500%.
Well, that was nationally. So I would be interested in looking at that too, because that would actually make me even more chilled about the whole thing.
Yeah.
When I see something that's that close, and that actually fits the mold that I've always said would be like, if somebody was going to cheat, you'd have to be pretty close to winning anyway, because you can't force your way over unless you're pretty darn close. And then you don't want to go too far over, because that's going to be like, adding more evidence to the trail. So you want to make it just large enough so that no one's going to look into it and you can say it's a landslide victory. 1.5%, that'd be the minimum, right? That you would say I can win by, and no one's going to look into it.
Well, there is a theory out there. Somebody made the assertion that he won all the swing states by just over the threshold that would require a recount.
Yeah. And so this is what, again, when you look at all these things, the fact that they had captured the source code for the machines, it actually had stolen the machines, and we found that there was back doors. They found the back doors. And, Tina Peters from Colorado, who, got a sentence of 9 years, she actually found the back door and publicized it. So they knew about this. But I think it
Okay.
may be more about what Greg is saying, Greg Pallas is saying about subverting the ability for people to cast their ballots, maybe spiking them in the post office and just throwing them out because people don't know if they're going to get there. I think that level of technology is probably more likely because it's actually easier to do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ray, you're great. We appreciate it. Come back next week, please.
Okay, thanks. I'll try.
And we're going to jump in on. Oh, wait,
Yeah,
Myla.
Ray, why don't you hang on for just a minute? Julie Weiner had her hand up, and if she wants to speak, I'm certainly willing to defer to Julie. I'd like to hear from her. And we can start the next segment in a few minutes. We don't have to
All
start
right.
right
Julie, did you want to add in, and then Ray can add a footnote here, and then Steve Caruso wanted to say something, and then we're going to go.
No, I was just wanting to ask Ray that question about the coincidence of the 1.5000. I wondered if he knew more about it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Well, if anybody knows about it, it's going to be Ray Lutz.
I'll look at that again because I am curious about the swing states, exactly what their percentage was. But I don't know if I can handle any more chilling here. You know, thanks.
Well, yeah, but the presumption that I've seen is that all 7 swing states came in for Trump, which nobody thought all 7 would go, and they all came in just over the threshold for recounts. So if you can talk to us about that next week, I think everybody would be really interested to hear.
I think for many people, the whole thing was incomprehensible what happened. And now we're all needing to learn how to do a Nazi salute, which is really bothering me. That's really bothering me.
Yes, really. Okay, Steve Caruso, and then we'll go to Myla to start our ecology section. Again, thank you, Ray. It's really great to have you on. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, some comedian said, I got a fly here. I got a fly. Okay. So anyway, the what about the lottery that Elon Musk ran and perhaps interference with the poll books and using that to see who voted and see who didn't vote. And then it's a deep dive going into the IT aspect of it, but then they're placing votes into the tabulators with that record of the poll books and the lottery and so forth and so on. That's a far-fetched, you might want to say, a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy theory, and I fully endorse it as a theory, but nobody's probably working. Somebody was working on that at some point, but whatever.
Well, it's a theory that might be true. And just because you have a theory about what you need to make theories, about here's what happened or hypotheses to see if you can test them and see if they're right. And so far, in a number of different ways, it's looking like what Greg is saying and what others are, what we're seeing is possibly that these ballots were subverted and not counted. That makes a lot of sense. Of course, you have those other angles where people were threatened. There was bomb threats. There was people walking around with, gunslinging with automatic rifles, by the polling station or drop boxes.
People
there
had
was
to
drop
go
boxes that were taken offline. All these Republican states, they made it so that there was only one drop box in the state or in the county. I mean, it was ridiculous. And they worked on it hard, doing their scheming and scamming and rigging such that it would be very, very hard for people to vote. And so people would see the long lines. They would say, not going, there's people there with guns. They don't want to take the risk. And so Democrats tended not to vote in person. They tended to all vote by mail, and voting by mail is not as sure of a thing. If you mail it back in, we had DeJoy haunting the whole system. People said, oh, he's turned a corner and he's now a nice guy because he's approved all these changes to the Postal Service. I beg to differ. I don't trust the guy still, even though he approved a few changes. So
have you heard the thing where people's ballots from Wisconsin were being shipped to Pennsylvania purposely so they'd be delayed? Have you heard that one?
I didn't hear that one,
Wisconsin or Minnesota, but
I'm digging into just this Nevada situation because I think it's a feasible thing. And it's also one of the most unusual things because Nevada went Democratic in 2016, 2020, quite a bit. And all of the congressional seats and so forth that were on the ballot this time were pretty much heavily turned toward the Democratic win. And so then you wonder, well, why is it that well, I think it was that they took out just enough ballots so they wouldn't show that the Democrats did not have those wins that they expected, and did not go too far, especially in Clark County, where it's very Democratic compared to the rest of the state. Well, except for Washoe County, which is the Reno area, but and also Carson City. But the rest of the state is deep red, right? So it would be easier to hide taking blue ballots offline in a deep blue area, because then you don't notice it too much. Okay, thanks.
And
Thanks,
Ray,
Ray. Thank you
real
so much.
quick, I've been hearing reports of people who've had their mail-in ballots thrown out because of claims that the signatures didn't match. And all of the people I've heard from were people who voted Democrat. I don't know if you've heard that.
Well, that's one of the things that that they do have the right to do but they did other things, like they said, well, you didn't write the date correctly. It has to be in this format, or it was missing. Like, when was the date that critical? And so there was issues in some of these states where they were either challenging. I know in North Carolina it was 60,000 were challenged. They're scam. The right wingers are really, really good at this, setting up and rigging the system in their favor. And they've totally rigged it. Let's face it. I mean, let's look at the fact, you look at any map and they go, oh, look how red it is. Everybody's gone percentage wise toward red. Yeah, but all those little counties that they show are so small, it's irrelevant compared to those big areas. Only 175 districts, counties in the nation comprise half of the voters. Okay, so most of the map, it's all red, but almost nobody lives there. And so it's in these key places where people live, and that's where they did the damage. Okay, well, I'll come back next week. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Ray. We really appreciate it. MYLA, it's your call now. Mike Hersh has raised his hand. We've also haven't had a update on Leonard Peltier, but we do want to get to the environmental stuff. MYLA, the podium is yours. MYLA RESON.
Well, thanks, Harvey. I wasn't really planning to do much today about the environmental, the Earth Day programming that I'm working on for Pacifica and the 250 Pacifica stations to offer that programming. I wasn't really planning to do much on that today. I do see that Libby Halevi is with us, and I am just wondering if we might, since Julie Weiner is still here with us, if we can continue to talk to Julie. She seems to put her hand up again. And then I have some questions for Libby Halevi. I'm so glad that you're here. So let's just hear, Julie, did you now you've taken your virtual hand down? So I'm confused. I saw you raised it again. Oh, it's up again. Let's hear to wrap up that last segment.
Now, I just wanted to know who Ray is informing of this, whether this is staying inside the, I mean, he's not here anymore, but whether this,
oh, he is. He's actually here.
Whether these are staying inside the election integrity, the tiny little election security community, or whether you're doing outreach to some of the progressive leaders of the Democratic Party, for example, like, I'm sorry, my name finding difficulty right now. What's the name of the guy who was running for vice president of the Democratic Committee, who's a pollster himself?
The guy in Ben Wickler in Wisconsin.
I think she's talking about James Zogby.
Yes, Zogby. I mean, has he been talked to? Has anybody talked to Zogby about this?
And his brother is the pollster, by the way. But
yes.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize. Sorry.
That's okay. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah. So just curiosity about whether, Ray, about whether you're starting to approach people about this, or it's just inside our little tiny world of election security interested.
Well, I do all I can. I mean, I sent a letter to Biden before I said, do this. I sent the letter to the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland, he's always on top of everything. And so I figured he would jump at the opportunity to do something at the very end of his term before he's packing up his desk and running for his life. And so generally speaking, the Democratic Party is completely inept in this issue. They don't want to talk about any kind of election fraud or anything else. It's just like, forget it. So, no, we're not getting any traction on that. I am getting traction, pretty good traction with Substack, it turns out, with, over 7,000 views of this thing. That's better than nothing. And of course, I'm coming to this radio program. So that's going to really reach a lot of people. So we're doing our best, but you know what? I'm open to anybody who wants to help me, hit up the right people that you think would do it. It's a tough thing to, the Democratic Party is completely, it's taboo for them to even talk about it.
So Ray, let me ask you, for those who are listening on the radio, can you just tell people what your URL is for your website and how people can find you?
Well, I like this one that was posted here, substack.com/@Ray Lutz. That's pretty simple. You can get on the Substack there and subscribe to the newsletter.
How do you spell Lutz, Ray?
Lutz is Lutz, Ray Lutz, and best of Lutz to you. And my email is bestoflutz@gmail.com. So, you can think about the best of Lutz. And so, and Lutz is pretty lucky. So we go with that. The thing is, yeah, we have citizens oversight. We have a number of different things. We have an audit engine, which is our ability to audit these elections if we can get the ballot images, but they've been very hard to come by. And as I say, because the Democrat, Kamala Harris could have maybe fought a bit harder than she did, after saying everybody should fight like, when we fight, we win. And then she didn't fight at all. And because she didn't want to look like she was, an election denier. So that's our problem. I mean, I think in this election, I'm not making false claims. I'm just telling you exactly what the data looks like. And it looks like we were missing in Nevada about 100,000 votes. Okay, that's a lot.
Well, what was the margin in Nevada?
You know what? I don't have it on the tip of my tongue.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring that back next time. We'll take a look at it. Even if it was even like much less than that, Kamala would still win. So
well, let me just recount. Let me recount that in 2000, it was Al Gore who shut down the challenge to the obviously manipulated vote count in Florida. In 2004, when Bob Petrakis, who's been on the call today, and I did the reporting on the manipulation of the ballots in Ohio 2004, the Republicans didn't care that we reported. It was the Democrats who attacked us. It was Hillary Clinton who prevented a recount in Michigan in 2016, and here we are again. So it's the Democrats who don't. And what we need to come out of this with, our discussion is not sour grapes. We need to know how to go have a democracy going forward, because we certainly don't have one now.
Well, let me add a little bit of hope here, because in Monmouth County, New Jersey, they had a mistake that was made in their voting system or their election, where they read in 7 thumb drives twice, and so the results are way off. And after certification, they discovered this and they corrected it. And so they changed who won the election. So I don't think, like, the attorneys say, well, you can't do anything. It's moot now. It's over. So shut up. And the other point of view is we're going to find out what the facts are. We're not going to be just making false claims and denying it without any kind of a reason. But I think we do have a reason. There's so many facts involved here that point to the disingenuousness of Trump. He lies at every possible turn. He cheats if possible. He told people to cheat. He had people with the prowess to do this, Elon Musk, et cetera. And so I don't think that we should say, they suddenly became Boy Scouts and were perfectly honest in this election. I don't think so. I think they cheated, and I think that we can find it.
Well, if you can find it, that will be of great interest. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm not
sorry.
ready to say I found it yet, but we're on the trail.
Myla, we also want to get a report from,
Right, from Tatanka,
but
yes.
go ahead, do what you need to do here.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we go to Tatanka right now? And then we'll, after him, we'll talk about the programming for Earth Day.
And we have Mickey Leader waiting to speak as well.
Right.
Okay, Tatanka, if it's all right with Myla, do you want to jump in and give us a report on Leonard Peltier? I don't know if
Can you hear me?
yeah.
I-
Well,
okay,
actually,
I've been going in and out for the last 45 minutes.
Tatanka, if you
Anyway,
stop, Tatanka,
so it's
Tatanka, if you stop,
no
listen,
update from last
Tatanka,
week.
you need to stop your video.
Leonard is in.
I did that.
Okay.
okay, Tatanka, go ahead. Now we're losing him.
Yeah, I think that he's pretty
All
far
right,
away
I'm going to
from.
talk without.
Yeah, go ahead real quick.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Barely. Just
Okay.
get right to the point,
No
please.
update from last week. Leonard Leonard is in Turtle Mountain, Minnesota.
Thank God.
That's all we know.
All right. That's good enough. That's all we need to know. Thank you, Tatanka, for relieving us all of the ongoing fear that he's still in prison. So you're sure he's no longer in prison?
Yes.
Yeah, Tatanka, we can either
Okay.
see you or hear you.
I got him. He said yes. That's all we need to hear.
Very
Tatanka,
good.
we're grateful. Leonard Peltier is in Minnesota. He's not in federal prison, and more power to him and all of us. Thank you for that, Tatanka. Okay,
Yeah, send your prayers for his safety. That's for all of us. Never mind.
So
good, wonderful.
Mickey, do you have a question about the environmental programming for April 22nd?
No, it's too soon for me to even think that far. I was going to make two comments. I've read in many places that people are questioning why Kamala Harris did not request any recounts, and it was her right to request that in every one of those areas that, it was suspect. And two, I saw online photographs of a very tall young man or
Mickey, I'm sorry, but your audio is not, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now better?
Yeah.
That's because I'm almost eating it.
Go ahead.
In the Western Pennsylvania areas where the Amish reside, he looked at the voting maps that there was possibility of getting enough people to vote for Trump if he would go door to door and bring absentee ballots. And then he told them they wouldn't have to go anywhere. He would mail them for them. So they didn't have to have anyone see them going to vote. They came out just over the top and they won. Trump won all in that area. Additionally, did any of you see Trump at one of his rallies or maybe the night of his inauguration where he got up on stage and he thanked Musk? He's very, very, very good with the computers, and that he went into Pennsylvania and went to all of these districts and visited them all. And it was for him, that's how he won Pennsylvania. So, one of the things that we always hear the pundits say, Trump tells you what he's going to do, and he tells you a million times what he's going to do, and he tells you what he did do, and he tells you what he's going to do again. I don't think any of us would be surprised to find out definitively that they manipulated those votes in Pennsylvania. And nobody has given me a good reason why Kamala Harris did not request recounts in all those areas that were so close. I just don't understand it. So
bring that up again next week. I have a short answer, which is that she's a Democrat, but that keeps our nonpartisan status clean here. But we experienced this in 2000. Al Gore shut it down. In 2004, John Kerry shut it down. In 2016, Hillary Clinton shut it down. And now we had it again in 24. If you can, it's a $64 trillion question, and we need an answer before 28, or certainly before 26.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
The Democrats seem to have a pattern and practice of of not stepping up. Now, we are going to pivot for now to talk about the Earth Day programming. Mimi,
MYLA,
yes, go ahead, Mimi.
I had my hand raised. This is something about Leonard Peltier.
Oh, fabulous.
Is Tatanka still on our call?
He is.
Okay. I'm going to shut my camera off, but
Okay.
I received, because I was looking, I was double checking the email I got this morning. I'm in a local Indigenous solidarity group. Some of us went to Standing Rock, so they've been active for 8 years or whatever that is. And a fundraising email was put out today for Leonard Peltier. Let me shut off my camera and I'll pull up that email. And it was, of course, it closed. Oh, here it is. Okay. So it's from the Leonard Peltier Official Ad Hoc Committee. And their website is freeleonardpeltiernow.org. And I'll put the link in the chat. And I just wanted to ask Tatanka if he knew if that was something legitimate. I think it is, because I know there was a split in the support groups. So I just wanted to check with Tatanka what he thought of that. And I can send you that email, MYLA, because I have your email address. So I'll put that link in the chat and I'll forward that email to Tatanka and you. Thank you so much, MYLA. That's all I wanted to add. Of course. And excuse me for jumping in, but it was about.
No. Right. So listen, Libby has some time constraints. And I want to go to Libby in just a minute. What we're gonna talk about right now is the environmental programming for Earth Day. Unless Tatanka, you feel that you need to respond to what Mimi just said.
I'll look at
and wait, Tatanka. I think Tatanka, we can't.
Okay, he's going to look at it.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Tatanka. If you see anything worth more than you can tell us, please do.
Okay, so before we go to Libby, I just want to ask, is there anyone else here who is here to talk about the Earth Day programming or the soon-to-be formed Eco Broadcasting Network? If you are here for that purpose, I would like you to please raise your virtual hand. And I don't see anyone else here. So, Libby, I would like you to just talk to people about what you've been doing, your project with Nuclear Hot Seat for the past several years. If you could just say a few words about that, that would be terrific.
Oh, how many words do you want? I've got 13 and a half years worth of them. I like to describe it as a program for people who know nothing about nuclear who would like to know something, and people who know something who would like to know just a little bit more. And it is nuclear information from a different perspective. I found that when I called it anti-nuclear, too many people, especially in the media, just bounced off it and wouldn't pay any attention. So by saying it's coming from a different perspective, it's coming from our perspective, which is different from the mainstream narration that's out there. And it means the same thing, but it kind of covers it up a little bit and it intrigues people and draws them in. Because my goal is, we could have some very high level conversations, but my goal is to get the person who knows nothing and kind of attract them in to learning about the information. And the show is highly formatted. When I do my full format, which varies because of how much time I have and how long the interview goes, I will have a news segment. I will have an activist shout out section. I will have numbnuts of the week for outstanding nuclear boneheadedness, which is my opportunity to rant. Doesn't get in every week, but most weeks it does. And then there's a featured interview. This week is going to be a little there's my featured interview from last week. You might recognize that smiling face over there.
And Libby, when you say there, you're talking to some people who can't see what we're all looking at on the Zoom because they're listening to the audio.
Okay, what you're looking at is the landing page, nuclearhotseat.com, and my interview with my featured interview last week was with Harvey, and it was specifically about the network and pulling together and the need for us to communicate with each other and really create our own echo chamber to amplify what we're saying by being able to refer to each other and point to other programs and combine the ecological concerns with the nuclear concerns, with the peace concerns, and all of those so that we're not separate from each other. We're stronger together. I have jingles and a theme song for the show as well. And one of the lyrics on the theme song is, "The activists are linking." Lyrically speaking, it's a lousy line to sing because it's just got too much going on there. But the sentiment is necessary because by us coming together and dealing with each other and knowing each other's information and then passing it on, we build a much stronger and a much more unified movement, taking all these different parts, all these nuclear issues that are in separate silos, that are like local, like, uranium mining or waste or weapons, pulling them all together in one place. And the show I do not act prejudicially for or against one or another of the anti-nuclear issues. They're all fair game. They're all fodder, and I do what I can to include them all because I never know what somebody's interest is going to be. And because there's so much, I look at the program as being a hub for information, to be able to let people know not only what has happened and what is happening, but what steps they can take to move things forward. That's what Activist Shout Out is about. Where are the webinars? Where are the events going on? What's a petition we need to sign? And to acknowledge those people who have made some contribution that can be pointed to in the previous week. To be able to point to the pulling together of a network. That's important because that's our communications future. We're not going to get it from mainstream media. We've got to do it ourselves.
So, Libby, one of the things that I have been really trying to focus on and pulling together programming that will be offered to all 5 of the Pacifica radio stations, as well as the 250 affiliate stations of the Pacifica network, is to provide people with some hopeful, positive, solution-oriented ways of approaching this horrendous ecological crisis that we're facing. And you and I had a conversation about someone who you had interviewed in the past, and that's, I believe his name is MV.
Oh, the MV Ramana, yes.
So can you talk a little bit about that interview with MV Ramana?
I can't cite it because his information was so brilliant, so brilliantly presented, and so accessible. The man knows how to communicate. And he's an engineer and he's got all kinds of credentials. I cannot quote what he's saying, but what he was talking about is all the reasons why nuclear energy is not green. And he framed it with great clarity. This is also based on a book that he just published. I forget the exact title, but if you look under initial M, like Mary, initial V, like virtue, and then Ramana, Ramana, the book will come up. And I believe it's essential reading for anyone who's involved in these issues, because we know what we want to communicate. He just has a different way of doing it, and his credentials are so extensive and so deep, and he is so undeniably an expert that by citing him and citing what he's saying, we got all that power behind what it is that we are saying.
Yes. Harvey?
Mike Hersh has a hand. Does anyone else want to? Thank you. Libby is a fabulous commentator and has a wonderful book about her personal experience at 3 Mile Island, which is pretty hair-raising, to say the least. Mike Hersh and then Mimi. And MYLA, you want to continue, go ahead. But Mike and Mimi, please.
A couple quick questions is, one, could you share a link to that interview? Because it sounds not only fascinating, but extremely helpful.
I actually believe that the interview was so extensive that it was on 2 episodes. If you hold on for a moment, I'll be able to do that, but I can listen at the same time. I'll be able to find those for you.
Can you
multitasking at work? And then the follow-up is, can we get him on this Zoom?
Good question. I can't answer that for you. Hold on while I look this up.
Mike, I think that he would be an excellent guest. And, you know, when you mentioned 3 Mile Island, because, you know, Harvey reported on 3 Mile Island, and Libby was actually within a mile, I believe, of the nuclear power plant when it exploded. But it was not long after 3 Mile Island exploded that the Los Angeles City Council decided that it would be a good idea to invest in and support a nuclear power plant in Arizona. So the city of Los Angeles was instrumental in building the Palo Verde nuclear power plant in Arizona. And it's directly linked, I think, to 3 Mile Island, because even though we had, can either Harvey or Libby explain the extraordinary circumstance that just months after 3 Mile Island exploded, that the Los Angeles City Council ignored the dangers of nuclear power and made the decision to invest in Palo Verde?
That is not something I can speak to. Harvey, that would be yours.
Well, we refer to it as the Egyptian syndrome because it's denial. And, you know, these guys got every, you know, whenever something goes wrong, they say there's nothing wrong. And we have the same situation now in California where, and I just put a piece about this, Steve, if you want to show it up. It's at freepress.org, where, you know, we've had these horrendous fires in LA. You know, both MYLA and I and you, Libby, were all in LA, and we know what a nightmare the fires were. And yet here we have this governor who's portraying himself as a green governor, pushing electric cars to a certain extent, who has forced the state to prolong operations of the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. And this is a great article at Counterpunch, by the way, by Alfred McCoy, about how Trump's anathema to opposition to electric cars is going to doom the American economy because we won't be able to compete worldwide. And in California, Gavin Newsom pulled the plug, as it were, on a phase out of the Diablo Canyon reactors and essentially killed or severely harmed the rooftop solar industry in California, and is ignoring the fact that if Diablo Canyon, which is outside of San Luis Obispo, blows up, which it will do if the big one hits. The Diablo Canyon is only 45 miles from San Andreas Fault. It's surrounded by earthquake faults. If, God forbid, Diablo Canyon the 2 reactors are ever hit by an earthquake, they will blow up. And
Harvey,
the radioactive cloud will come straight into Los Angeles. Go ahead, Milo.
That's right. And as I might remind you that the Mothers for Peace recently has a fabulous consultant, a seismologist, a very credentialed and well-respected seismologist, who mapped a diagonal thrust fault directly below the reactors at Diablo. So not only does Diablo sit in an area that is riddled with earthquake faults, but now there is credible scientific evidence that there is a diagonal thrust fault directly below the reactors at Diablo. So that is just extraordinarily frightening. Now, Libby, I see that you have posted a link to part 2 of your interview with MV Ramana on Nuclear Hot Seat, and I'm wondering if people go to nuclearhotseat.com, is your website searchable? Can they put in MV Ramana and find those interviews?
You can just put in Ramana, because some places I think it has the periods and some places it doesn't. But the entire website is searchable. So, no, Ramana.
There we are.
No, it was misspelled in the search.
Okay.
It's not ramen noodles.
No, it's Ramana.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well,
There you go.
Mimi Spreadsbury, did I say that correctly? And Mickey Leader would like to come in. I'm going to ask Mimi to unmute. There you are, Mimi. What do you have to say?
Hi, thank you so much for that insight, Libby. And I said this yesterday on the PDA town hall about the fires and rebuilding California. And I believe this was the Climate Center that said that we need to be rebuilding climate smart, right? In California, we need to rebuild climate smart because unfortunately, and I call these climate fires now, folks, we should call them climate fires because that's what they are, or Chevron fires, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. But they're going to continue and they're going to get worse. So that was my quick follow-up to the fires, and so glad that our Los Angeles friends are doing okay, all considering, my goodness. But I was wondering if I could connect to Libby somehow offline, because my local Indivisible a couple years ago had a pro-nuclear person speak. And I know I was so mad. And I was, I was involved with Circle of 100 already with Tatanka and everybody else. And they could not suggest an anti-nuclear speaker. So if, anyone would have some time, or Libby or Sluggo or anyone, that would be really excellent. And Tatanka, you might remember me asking Ben and Danny that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mimi. MYLA, do you want to go to Mickey Leader?
Let's go. Yes, let's go to Mickey.
Hi, guys. Somebody turned off my video, so sorry for the blank picture.
No, it's better actually. And people should know, oftentimes your audio is better when your video is off.
Oh, okay. Well,
so go ahead. We love to see you, but it's better to hear you at this point.
I thought it's because I just put pink stripes in my hair. Yeah, at 78, I've been doing it for about 5 years. But bottom line is, somebody had the goal to say, "Oh, you like to be an exhibitionist?" I said, "No, I happen to like the way it looks." And I used to do it because my little Yorkie had a pink tail and pink ears.
And that's not what an exhibitionist is.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's, you know what? It was a nasty old woman at the League of Women Voters. And I'm an old woman and I try not to be nasty. So, anyway, two thoughts. Your information and the people that we'd like to have get a wider audience from Libby, your interest in the anti-nuclear. Listen, I live in Rockland County across from Westchester, and the nuclear power plant that is supposed to be finally going out. And it's on the Rockefeller edge of the Rockefeller properties. I don't think
Indian Point. It's
Indian Point. Thank you, darling. Thank you. And when my kids, I have a 53-year-old and I have a 50 and a 41-year-old. And when my older kids were still in our public school. I was both a school board member and a PTA member, and I had to go to all kinds of both countywide meetings about how to get out of the schools and which direction did we have to bus them so that they weren't anywhere near the fallout zone, and how would we find out? And you couldn't go to the school to pick your own kid up. It was just crazy. I'm telling you, I don't think anybody does any kind of evacuation plans for any goddamn thing anymore. Really, none. So, but that was one. And I would suggest that Ray Lutz, we need to get him a bigger audience. And I watch the Midas Brothers podcast all the time now. And in the past 4 months, they have created a 3 million viewership audience. So it might be something that you could get on there. It's people just don't know these things. And I don't understand if they're just so turned off of with 10 years of constant Trump and crap that they don't want to hear it. And I think I was looking through my lists.
Mickey, excuse me, Mickey. I have to step away for a minute, and I'm turning the controls back over to Harvey.
Okay.
So
Harvey.
I wanted to say goodbye and thank you, Libby. And I just have to step away for a minute now.
Well, thank you, Maya. You did a great job. We really appreciate it. Maya, I want to thank you for your incredible work saving Pacifica. You have been absolutely essential to the struggle to keep that open. Mickey, I will say this, at Indian Point, we finally shut it. It's a great victory for the No Nukes movement. Andrew Cuomo was the governor, and he decided it was just too close to New York City and made him concerned. But he also gave $7.6 billion to keep 4 other reactors open in New York. And now, of course, New York's electric bills are through the roof. And we in California, where we had a booming solar industry, I mean, it was just really, a cornerstone of American renewables, led, of course, by Paul Newman, who has solar panels on his roof in Santa Monica there. But, Newsom just forced the state of California to continue operating Diablo Canyon at a cost of $11 billion over a market, and $1 billion in outright handouts to PG&E. And then his utility commission just turned around and killed the solar industry, losing at least 17,000 jobs and billions of dollars in revenue. And here we are, number 2 in the country in terms of our electric rates. It's outrageous. And so my piece today at freepress.org is Trump has nothing on Gavin Newsom in terms of attacking renewables. Trump yells and screams about wind power and loves fossil fuels, but Gavin Newsom has done actually more damage to the renewable revolution that we need than Donald Trump has.
Why? Why?
Well, we don't know. Everybody wants to know. Maybe we think maybe he was going to run for president and still might, and wants the money from the nuclear industry. But in 2018, everybody should know this. In 2018, Jerry Brown, actually for 2 years, from 2016 to 18, he pulled together a tremendous coalition of labor people, utility regulators, local governments, you name it, and the assembly, the legislature. And they certified a transition plan where Diablo Canyon, the 2 reactors at Diablo Canyon, which are now 43 years old, would be phased out and renewables would be phased in. And from 2018 to 2022, things just went along great, ahead of schedule, under budget. Battery power just took off, which people didn't count on, but got way, way, way stronger. So the whole formatting of the transition plan to take Diablo down and phase in renewables was going way ahead of budget, way of schedule and under budget. And suddenly in April 22, Newsom, who signed the original deal in 2018, waltzed in and put a kill bill in the assembly, got it passed at midnight, and now we're screwed because the whole state, the electric rates have gone up. The half of the companies installing solar have gone bankrupt. We've lost thousands of jobs. There are only 1,500 workers at Diablo. And now we're stuck with this ridiculous nuclear plant, which could blow up literally at any moment. It is embrittled. It will blow up if the earthquake hits. And here we are. And in terms of renewables, Gavin Newsom is way worse than Trump. I mean, you give Trump a chance, he'll do the damage. But so far, way more damage is done by Gavin Newsom. It's outrageous. Mimi again, Mike Hersh, and Tatanka, if you want to chime in with more about Leonard, we did hear the blessed news that he's in Minnesota. Just glad to hear that. If there's anything you want to add, we'll welcome it. Mimi, go ahead, then Mike. And Michael O. Johnson, you jumped in at the end last week. If you want to jump in now because we're getting to the end again, if you got something you want to say, we're glad to hear it from you. Go ahead, Mimi and Mike.
Thank you so much, Sluggo. It's just really shocking what Governor Newsom has done to solar in this country, in this state. And I work very, very heavily on that with Solar Rights Alliance and Indivisible California. And he ran on privatizing PG&E. So he chickened out for some reason. PG&E have been major donors to Newsom, including, I believe, for one of his recalls. So he's completely chickened out. He's put, and you'll know this, Sluggo, and other people, he's put horrible people on the California so-called Public Utilities Commission. It's just really awful, really shocking. So I knew that little follow-up off the top of my head, so I wanted to say that really quickly. He's a major disappointment, and Solar Rights Alliance and other groups, we're just convinced that he wants to kill solar. He wants to kill it. And I can tell you why. There's a horrible bill called Pathways, right? Pathways sounds nice and cuddly. Everyone likes a path. But there's this Pathways bill about to come up, which will put California in a bigger consortium of state utility companies. And the other companies, the other states, companies, utility companies in other states use fossil fuels. So that'll completely screw us over here in California, have very expensive bills. They'll Enron us again. It'll take away the control of our utilities. All these articles have been coming out saying California has too much solar. And so we knew something was up. You must have, one of them was, CNBC, I think, one of the capitalist channels. So that's what's going on for that. I just knew that follow-up off the top of my head. And we're watching that very closely. And unfortunately, it's a local assembly member that will author this who wants to be the chair of the Energy Committee. I think they're the Energy and Utilities Committee. And so I'm a part of California Indivisible Climate Justice Team. And we had a bill, there was a bill last year that we opposed to have a smaller regional network. And I'm just going to forget what that bill was called off the top of my head. But we're expecting this bigger, awful one to come up soon called Pathways. And all kinds of people are supporting it. And also, Governor Newsom put out a executive order sometime at the end of last year, blaming solar users for raising the price of utilities here in California, which is absolute nonsense. That there have been other studies that show the opposite. So he's trying to slam solar any way that he can. And I still have that. So that a corrected one was put out by the Solar Rights Alliance, and I can put that in the chat, and and representatives in Sacramento were given the corrected executive order blaming solar users.
Hey, Mimi, that's great information. Please drop that in. Libby is saying that she's going to have to leave, so we'd like to give her an opportunity to sum up her thoughts and thank her for her great presentation and invite her back.
Certainly. Then if I can say my last thing after that, I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I put aside from 3 until 4 for this, and I do have a commitment I have to get to on the other side. I would appreciate it if all of you could go to Nuclear Hot Seat and sign up in the yellow opt-in box. I don't bug you, but you will get one email a week as soon as the show drops with the link and a little bit about the information that's in it. What that does is it goes on my database and it moves me up in the Google algorithm, which means ultimately more people can find the show. That's the way that particular mechanism works. So if you could do that, that would be a great support to me. If you've got any nuclear awarenesses or stories, I am always open. I get my best leads from the people who listen to the show saying, why aren't you covering this thing that's happening in my backyard? And I get back to them and I say, I don't know what's happening. Tell me about it. And in that way, develop my relationships and build the network of people who are providing information. Because the show is really, it's the hub. It is the place where you can go to share your information to the best of my ability. I will share it forward. And they're timing things with that, but to the best of my ability, I want to keep on the front cutting edge of what's happening because basically nobody else is. I mean, there are newsletters, there are people who are concerned, there are people who know, but I do this for 1 hour every week. So that's a lot of territory that I can cover with nuclear information. So if you've got something, don't hold on to it and don't assume that I know it. Just shoot me an email, and email is the best, info@nuclearhotseat.com, so that we can get all this information out. I mean, Harvey said he was going to be doing this network. I went, okay, that's something, you want Nuclear Hot Seat on it? Let's talk about what this network is and what it can do. And that's what led to last week's program.
Okay.
And thank you. This is a great group and I love being part of it.
Thank you, Libby. Thank you. Mimi, did you want to finish? And we'll see you soon, okay?
Okay.
Libby, Mimi, did you want to finish? I want to ask if Michael Johnson wants to say something, and then we're almost out of time.
Okay, thank you so much, Sluggo. So again, about the fires, there's the really important bill in California that's passed in other states, and it's simply called Make Polluters Pay. So we have to start making polluters pay. And this bill is passed in New York State. I believe it's also passed in Vermont, and we need to get that passed here in California so we can make these polluters pay for the fires and the other climate catastrophes that we're going to have coming up. So there's a mass organizing call tonight at 5 p.m. in support, and they're also calling a climate super fund. So I will forward that to you, Sluggo, and I'll put that information in the chat. I'm not sure. Had you heard about that?
I'm glad to hear from you about it. Put it in the chat, please.
Okay. I'm not sure I can go because there's also an indivisible leadership meeting tonight, and I haven't double checked those times yet.
Let us know about this and put it in the chat. Maybe people will go. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Tonight
you.
at 5.
Okay, keep up, and we appreciate it. Michael O. Johnson, we're almost out of time. You jumped in at the end, and then we'll go to Mike Hersh. Then we'll rock and roll.
Sorry, I was, I couldn't unmute in time last Monday. I was just going to sing a happy birthday song for Melissa, and we ran out of time because I was trying to unmute on the Instagram.
Here we are.
Hey, Michael, believe it or not, you can't sing copywritten songs because we're going out on YouTube. So what we can do is stop the recording, and then we'll let you go, and you can charm us with your beautiful voice.
Yeah, but I did sing the song yesterday. You were on Zoom with me yesterday, so
yeah, that was after we turned off the recording.
Right.
Is this your song or is it someone else's copyrighted song?
No, well, it's both. But Melissa was on the Zoom yesterday, and she thanked me for singing it. So we're done.
The happy birthday song.
Right.
I believe that's out of copyright, but I'm not sure. Somebody might be getting a nickel.
Yeah, but the end of it was like in the Yoruba language, which is a language from Nigeria. So, but anyway,
okay.
She enjoyed it. And
okay, go ahead. Let's hear it, and then we're going to rock and roll. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this week. been a great call. Next week we'll have Greg Palast. We're going to go do a definitive dive on whether or not this 2024 election was legit. We'll have Ray Lutz, who really knows his stuff, and some of our other experts. But Greg Palast will be the headliner next week. It's been wonderful to see everybody. We were up to 80 today, and just a great get together. We really appreciate it, Mike. Thank you as well. I'll give you the last word, Mike. Michael, go ahead, sing your song, please.
Well, it's just